the EVA, the value-added tax, will go up to 15%. There's a phenomenon where a lot of people are going to buy a bunch of stuff right now.
This is what I want for my life, for my family, for my kids.
People in the States and Canada, they're like, we can't really afford our lifestyle here anymore. You know, rent is expensive, food is really expensive.
There are things happening that are making it harder for people to move.
You guys are bringing too many people here. Like, stop telling people about Vilcabamba.
To be here successfully and enjoy it, you know, you do have to kind of unplug and relax.
They block the roads when they don't like what the government does. And
there's a free public healthcare system here, but on top of that, the private system's fantastic and dirt cheap. Like, it's one of the most biodiverse countries on earth.
The cost of living being so much cheaper here just gives you so much more freedom.
I don't think you should come here unless like a lot of the stuff here really aligns with what you're into.
And then you have that social awkwardness and like, I don't really know what to do, and are people looking at me, and I'm not confident. So when you look at the big picture, most people this isn't for them. They're gonna struggle, or they're gonna not like it.
Extremely high number of health practitioners, amazing, like world-renowned in some cases, health practitioners who make their home, you know, here in the Valley, which I think is another just very unique and very cool aspect of, you know, Vilcabamba, Ecuador.
Can't picture myself being anywhere else. We're so comfortable here. We're so, you know, we have so many friends. We've made so many deep relationships with locals and expats.
Hello and welcome back to the Ecuador Insider Podcast. Brandon's making sure he has no boogers. Carl's putting down his phone to as Bitcoin is very volatile today, moment by moment.
All-time high. We just hit all-time high today, Tuesday, March 5th. Is that right?
You nailed it.
But tomorrow will probably be even higher, so that won't be relevant anymore. That being said, I was
an interesting time in the world for crypto and all other asset classes, opportunities, investment opportunities. Welcome back to the show. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Right now, take a moment, hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel. What does Brandon say? Virtual high five. Give us a virtual high five. And subscribe to the channel. Share with your friends and colleagues. And I think there's another one. Hit the bell. Hit the bell so you get all our latest content.
We appreciate you guys watching.
We do.
We appreciate you commenting and engaging and asking us questions. So if you appreciate us putting this content out just a little bit, subscribe and hit the like.
And if you're watching from your cell phone, tip your phone to the side and subscribe.
Hey.
Well done.
We have our next Vilcabamba Lifestyle Retreat coming up April 12th. There is still a little bit of time to sign up. We do have a good group already in tow. Is that the right word? In tow? I don't know.
Sure.
But coming down for our 6th Vilcabamba Lifestyle Retreat. If you are interested at all in Ecuador and this area, I promise you there is not better bang for your buck, not better value than that 9-day experience. Also happens to be a blast. So come on down, hang out with us for 9 days on April 12th. We look forward to seeing you. All right. We actually have hit rainy season. Carl predicted this. So Carl said February, and I kind of snickered.
Yeah.
And
you did?
I usually snicker when
it's usually February.
Yeah.
Like it's every year.
Yeah.
Since I've been here.
So you're just saying I'm not. I can't say the word you said last week because we're not allowed. But right. So yeah. So it's been raining like crazy lately. Sort of more typical for some parts of rainy season. But again, you know, rainy season here is lovely. Like you know, you get some days where it's raining, but in general, it's sort of an afternoon shower and occasionally or sometimes, you know, sort of heavier overnight rains. And that's kind of what we've been having recently.
Look at today.
Today is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you know, I actually just, it's early. It's, well, not that early. It's 10:20 in the morning.
What time were we supposed to start the pod?
I mean, Carl was late, man. Don't look at me.
I was a little late. But, you know, I'm only late when you say you'll be late, then it makes me justify being a little late.
Somehow it's Jesse's fault. That's fine. That's fair. That's fair. I have already taken a dip in the river this morning, which was absolutely lovely. I've been trying to do that twice a day as opposed to just once.
Okay.
You guys never join me. I'm a little butthurt about that. So I don't know. We'll have to correct that. But okay. So anyhow, what are we talking about today? So there's some updates on exit tax. which we should chat about. I think do you have that stuff ready to go?
I don't have it ready now, but I can look for it.
You can look for it. And you know what I should mention?
What should you mention?
Messaging.
Amazing.
On a very similar time, which we forgot to talk about on the podcast, we hit both 10,000 subs on YouTube as well as the 10-year anniversary of Abundant Living.
Woohoo!
Right around the same time.
Thank you guys.
Yes, thank you.
So yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, 10,000, that was awesome.
It's a great milestone.
10,000 in 10 years.
Yeah.
1,000 subscribers a year. Hey. Killing it.
Poco a poco.
Another 50 years, we'll be right where we want to be. No. But yeah, I mean, this was founded over 10 years ago now. I believe it was January 2014. We've been in business consecutively since then. First number of years in Loja, getting our butts kicked, and then a better times after that. So
it's pretty awesome. Especially when you see, like, I've only been here 3, and I've seen multiple, real estate companies in town come and go, so the fact that, you've been 10 years, that says a lot.
I mean, people have no idea how difficult this business is.
Right.
It is it's not like opening a real estate company back home, which there's a pathway for that. There's a lot of moving parts that there's no way to figure out unless you figure them out, which takes multiple years and enormous experience and a lot of lumps and all of that.
Well, we've countlessly shared anecdotes of, like, just little simple things here that are really cumbersome, that aren't straightforward. And I was just talking to a guy out in Cuenca that's looking to start a real estate company. And he's talking about, I never realized the legal was going to be so hard and this was going to be so difficult. And it's just like every aspect of running a business in Ecuador, and particularly a real estate company, where there's so many moving parts and different variables. It's a microcosm of the entire business. Like, every phase of the business is that way. So the fact that, 10 years later, still standing, it says a lot, man. It's pretty awesome. But it's a testament to, how you go about it, how you went about it, how you establish relationships.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And that's it, man. Like, how it's about the culture and the relationships, and you took the time to understand that and set the groundwork. And now the team has really moved forward in that vein and in that image. And it's awesome.
No, the company is really it's fun now to run the company. Like, it's in probably better shape than it's ever been, largely, thanks to you guys and the team, the admins and the agents and the photo, video, and like the team is just awesome right now.
It's awesome.
Shout out to the team.
Yes.
Fernando, Monica, Aide, Pedro, Jorge, Ryan, Travis. Thank you.
Alicia, Jose.
Jose.
Yeah.
The builders, engineers.
But it's really a testament just to how stubborn I am and perhaps stupid to just, power through no matter what.
You said it.
On a learning curve that should have been too steep and was, but I just refuse to give up. All right, you got the exit tax stuff? Let's jump into
EVA.
that. EVA, what am I talking about?
I haven't looked at the exit tax
we said
yet,
we were going to look that up for this week.
Please look it up as I.
Oh, that's the
So
Mandarina.
this is an article from El Universo that was released yesterday. The EVA, the value-added tax, will go up to 15% as of April 1st of 2024. It doesn't apply to everything. There's certain, food, all the basic living things, commodities, services as well don't have EVA. So food items, except the packaged stuff. So anyhow, 1st of April, so in less than a month, the EVA, the value-added tax, will go from 12% to 15%. So there's a phenomenon where a lot of people are going to buy a bunch of stuff right now this month while the EVA is still lower, to save 3%. Stocking up and stuff. So if, it's an idea. I hadn't thought about it. The article is kind of suggesting people do that. That's basically all I got about the EVA for now.
You're saying some of the items won't have this increase?
Yeah, there was a list
a little
that
more.
I heard. I don't have it right in front of me, but
Yeah.
certain items,
There's also in Ecuador quite a few industries and businesses that are exempt. Basically, anybody who's like artisan, like so anybody basically who works with their hands in a small capacity, not an official definition, obviously, is essentially exempt from EVA. So if you go to a car mechanic, or you go to anyone who's making stuff, essentially, you don't pay EVA.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. And while Brandon is seeing if we can find the exit tax stuff, let's see. There's some stuff I wanted to get into. So, I think we're we've talked about this kind of a bit, but I think we're in just an amazing time in the world, almost regardless of your perspective, whether it's, whether you're sort of a very religious person, or you're, or you're spiritually minded in some different way, or even perhaps just looking at things from a macroeconomic perspective, as sort of as an economist, or if you're following geopolitical events from the standpoint of conflict and war, whatever, or if you're a meteorologist, even if you're interested in the weather, or kind of any angle you come at things, it's a wild time. It's a very sort of uncertain time. It's a lot of change. Obviously, we had the pandemic and all the change that came with that in people's lives, right? I think that period of time was one where people made massive life decisions. Like, we had a flood into the valley of people moving here as a result of COVID, regardless of whatever their reasons. Largely, it was sort of people wanting more freedom and less government overreach.
Yep.
But also searching sort of for that simpler life, that more kind of connected to nature, connected to food and water and community and all that stuff. And those kinds of things, I think really drive a lot of people to this valley. It's like people sort of pick their head up and look around and say, like, what I'm doing isn't for me anymore. And they're looking for something different. And somehow, I'm not exactly sure how, but somehow they find Vilcabamba, Ecuador. And so, yeah, we're kind of, we're in this time. There's a lot of interesting predictions, like for the next not very long period of time. Usually predictions are total crap. So, who knows, how any of that will play out. But I'm so, sometimes I hear things, or I tune in something on social media, or I just overhear a conversation or whatever it is. And a lot of people are just worried about a lot of things that living here makes me not only not worried, but not even think about. And I know we've talked about this before, but I don't know that you can kind of overstate that. It's really just takes so much of the stress off and the pressure off, and just sort of the, I don't know what you call it, but you don't have to, if you live here and you don't want to, you don't really have to pay attention to any of the international news at all.
Sure.
Because you're so insulated, right? It's not like, a place like the United States, where if there's any disruption in the supply chain or something, it affects your life dramatically. Or if there's any crisis with the currency, it affects your life dramatically. Or if there's a war, the U.S. is going to be involved. Or, kind of
just weather events, even
weather events.
Like where there's extreme cold temperatures, or people relying on heat or fuel, gas to heat their homes, and you don't have those concerns here.
Yeah, or weather events that affect the food supply in the other way too, where you'll have, the States is experiencing something now where places have gotten really hot too soon and then froze again, which then causes crop failures and all kinds.
Did you see all the snow in California?
Oh, no, I
got
didn't.
like 10, 12 feet in Tahoe, in certain spots. It's nuts. Like I mean, maybe that's happened before. I don't recall a time where California has gotten so much snow at least in parts of it. I mean, 10 to 12 feet. I mean, in California.
Yeah.
It's mostly a desert. It's a semi-arid desert climate. And I mean, obviously in those parts, it's not quite that extreme, but the fact that they got snow is just these weird things happening with weather everywhere.
You came like kind of just after COVID, right? Or just that, or during maybe even.
Yep.
What was that part of what prompted you, or what was the?
No, for us it was, we were always looking. We were in the process of 6-7 years prior to COVID, of knowing, that this isn't where we want to be. For a variety
You're in the
of
greater
reasons.
Chicago area at that time, yeah.
And we were trying to make things work with semi homesteading. We had chickens, indoor garden, outdoor garden, but with the weather, it was just so. The financial model didn't make sense to do it. Like it costs more to be sustainable than it would be to just go to the grocery store,
Right.
and then the work to do it. So it just didn't work. We tried it. We learned it didn't work. So then we started more seriously looking for different climates is really where it started. And then eventually with the COVID time, that first month where, being into some of the, alternative news, you saw some different perspectives than you were seeing mainstream. And in the beginning, a lot of the alternative news was leaked, perhaps intentionally from China, where it made it seem like we were understating, the mainstream media was understating the impact of COVID and the virus or whatever the event was, because all the alternative media was showing people dropping dead in the streets and China spraying with these big trucks and all this. So you're like, oh, there's this, they're not telling us something, right? Yep. So that first month, which is odd because it kind of ended up being the opposite, right? That was propaganda.
Sure.
But during that first month, I wasn't sure. My family, I didn't know what to think about it. So we kind of just stayed hunkered down at home for that month. It was cold anyway, so it's not like we were going outside much, but we just spent much more time at home with the family. And that month gave us the experience and maybe the confidence to say, hey, we're good. We're good with just our core family unit to go take the jump, take the leap, try something new. And if we don't like it, we can always move somewhere else. We can move back. We can, there's no permanency to the move, at least attempting or trying it for a while, trialing it. So for us, that first month of COVID was really what gave us the confidence and the mindset to say, let's go try it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's how we got it.
And one thing led to another, because you started out on alone or wanting to go to alone.
Yeah. We started out, it was just the whole live on a beach, kind of mindset.
It's like similar to Jake's story.
Yeah. So we started laying out our tour. We were going to tour the coast of Ecuador for 6 weeks, start up north. I forget even where now. Maybe Canoa. Is Canoa far north? I don't remember.
No, a little further.
Just a little further.
Just
it might have been
north
before.
of Canoa,
So it might have been even further north than that. I remember Canoa was one of the stops.
Yeah, that's popular.
But we were laying out the trip, and then as I was looking at Airbnbs online, and then I was trying to find YouTube videos of recent reviews or people that have stayed there, because there's just so little information about Ecuador anywhere.
Even a few years ago.
Yeah. Even probably still now. Like, it's not like there's this huge volume of tourists coming through either. Right. So you don't have a lot of data to look at. So I was trying to just find something new.
You being a data guy as well.
Yeah, and I just wanted to find something new, a new reviewer and somebody that's been there recently or a new video or something. And as I was going through that, that's when I stumbled across, an old video, like a 15-year-old video from Vilcabamba with Matt Monarch. And he was just this quirky dude, and I'm kind of intrigued, like, what is this guy? And then I'm like noticing the scenery. And at that time, I didn't know anything about Ecuador. I knew the Galapagos Islands. I didn't know the Andes Mountains were here. I didn't know much. I knew there was a rainforest, that's about it. I couldn't find it on a map. I was one of the people I was talking about a couple episodes ago that couldn't find Ecuador on a map. That was me, So when I saw that, I'm like, so same concept. I'm like, this is 15 years old. I waited and he finally said something like Vilcabamba. I'm like, oh, cool. Where's that? So then I searched to try and find new videos. And that's when I found Abundant Living. And I'm like, oh, wow, that place is beautiful. Look at this. This is cool. Let's, I show it to my wife. I'm like, Tiff, let's check Vilcabamba out on the 6 weeks. So we were planning to spend the last week in Vilcabamba, take 5 weeks down the coast, last week in Vilcabamba, then fly back. And then as we were going through the logistics, we ended up switching it and deciding to start in Vilcabamba for the first week and then do the coast tour. And, we never left. We stayed here for the whole 6 weeks or 5, I don't even remember, around 6 weeks, and ended up staying here. And then this is it. And went back home.
It's really gratifying. Like because most people that move here love it. Not everybody. Like some people come and they're like, this isn't for me, and they leave.
Sure.
But in general, the vast majority of people who check this place out are like, wow, this is, most people say like it's better than I even expected. Yep. You hear that all the time. Yep. And it's so gratifying to play a role in that, right? Yeah. Like in your, in your story, but in like so many people's stories, they come up to us all the time and thank us for making the videos. And like, I found out about this place because of you. Yep. Like I love it here. Very, very gratifying.
Yeah. And then we got the haters who, I'm just kidding, but no, there's some people who live here who kind of want to keep Vilcabamba a secret, right? They don't want a lot of people to come here. They don't want, because they just want to keep it like kind of the hidden paradise than it still is, I guess. But anyway, some people sometimes give us a hard time. You guys are bringing too many people here. Like, stop telling people about Vilcabamba, Right. Just keep it for us.
I mean, obviously I believe you. I'm sure that is a sentiment. I think I've actually only heard that once or twice ever.
Yeah.
But I have a philosophy on that too, because the development is going to happen no matter what.
Of course.
Like nobody's promoting Malacatos, and its growth is probably exponentially greater than Vilcabamba. It's just part of the growth in the area. It's just the trends. People are Loja's expanding. People are leaving the city. They come to these places, foreigners as well. But it's like that development's going to happen no matter what. So the only thing we can do is kind of bring the right people, right? Sure. Bring people who are solid individuals, who have morals, who, are here for the right reasons, who want to contribute to the community, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I kind of look at it like that.
Of course.
But that bloom from the cities outward, that's a fundamental cycle anywhere in the world. That happens as populations grow. And then there's cycles where you'll see city centers and then things will start growing in the sprawl outside of the cities as people want something different. And then it continues to go out further rural. And then those cycles over time, they kind of go back. They're like blooms. They grow out. And then there's like something that brings people back to cities. And then they kind of come back out, and you can see those cycles repeat. But that happens anywhere in the world, So if people are going to continue to have children, which, there's the whole, we're overpopulating the planet. But if anybody actually thinks that, I mean, I don't know if we are or not. But if you zoom out and you look at Google Maps, most of the world is not populated.
Uninhabited.
It's uninhabited, right? Most of the world. So I'm sure we're going to get some haters.
And there's a phenomenon too that I've noticed here is that the young Ecuadorians, they don't want to stay in Vilcabamba.
Well,
they want to go to Quito. They want to go to Guayaquil or to some big city, Cuenca, or travel abroad. Go to the States internationally. So the population moves around quite a bit, and then it seems like the retirees or the professionals from the city, from Loja, they're the ones who are kind of moving to the rural areas after COVID, just knowing the weather's better, you have freedom, you can walk around, there's not as much pressure of wearing masks and all those types of things like there were in the cities. Ecuadorians have been moving to those areas, Vilcabamba, Malacatos, in the last 3-4 years for those reasons.
No, that really started the trend. It was the pandemic and that whole time. And that started the trend out. I mean, these places were already developing, obviously, just on what you mentioned. But that really started this sort of back to the al campo, trend amongst everybody. But certainly the trend also exists of young people moving to the cities as well.
Yeah, there were similar trends of city to rural in the States too just after COVID. There was a boom in people purchasing land and homes outside of city centers.
Yeah, I wanted to jump into something you said, Brandon, because I think that's important to point out once again. The fact that the cost of living is becoming an issue for a lot of people. I mean, I hear this all the time. People in the States and Canada, they're like, we can't really afford our lifestyle here anymore. Rent is expensive, food is really expensive. We don't make enough money, or we don't have enough savings. or even our retirement pension is not enough to live a comfortable life, that's a huge reason why people move here as well. And I think worldwide right now, as cost of living is increasing, inflation in some areas, populations are migrating to areas that are cheaper. You know, it's not just Ecuador. There's other countries that are Thailand and other places where people move to because cost of living is much lower.
What were you sharing with me this morning that, I don't know if it's a concrete example or not, but that, you know, was it your wife that went to go buy a couple want to say?
No, it's still, we've been here almost 3 years and this still, you know, it doesn't sink into my brain. It still like blows my mind in a way. Like she went to the tienda where we're getting some food for Lolita to prepare, and she went and got like 5 pounds of potatoes, 3 large cucumbers, 10 limes, and something else, and it was like $2.50 or something. And I'm like, it doesn't even sink in. I'm like, really? Like it was really that? Yeah. And I was just talking to some friends from the States. One of them lives in the city of Chicago, and we were talking about food and the types of food and some of the issue in the West, in city centers particularly, where the most available, cheapest food is the most unhealthy, most processed, most chemically ridden.
It's all subsidized.
Fast food. And then the healthiest stuff, the organic, the fresh produce, that's the most expensive, right? So, and then here it's the opposite. You know, the healthiest stuff is the stuff that's the cheapest, the most readily available, the most local, and the processed, chemically ridden, imported.
Isn't that amazing?
Junk is by far the most expensive.
It is literally opposite.
Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah. I mean, it's how it should be.
It should be,
but,
exactly, yeah.
No, it's funny you brought up that Matt Monarch video. That was the first thing I saw in Vilcabamba, was a video of Matt and his wife, whose name I'm forgetting. I knew
Angela.
Angela, thank you. Together, it was Matt holding the phone, but she was there, and they were along the river in San Joaquin, and the sun was kind of hitting the camera in a certain light, and there was all this grass behind them, and they were just talking, and I was like, wow. Yeah. And then the next I watched, it was, you know who it was? It was, I'm going to forget their names as well. They're not here anymore. It was the German couple that Ryman bought their place. Vinaya was his wife's name?
Piazza.
So it was Piazza.
Shout out.
Leading a Zumba class, like around town, and they were like filming it, and they made this video,
like Zumba dance,
Vilcabamba
exercise.
Rising or something, or Vilcabamba this or that. I don't know what it was. Yeah, Zumba, like some kind of dance. I didn't know it was Zumba. Someone told me. I think someone told me that that's what it was. That I was showing them the video, and that was it. I sold everything and moved to Vilcabamba, Ecuador. You know, sight unseen, just based on that sort of vibe that I was like, ooh, this is what I want for my life, for my family, for my kids. Yeah. You know, all that stuff. But
yeah, I wasn't quite that extreme, but you know, we spent the 6 weeks, went back, we sold our house and did our visa stuff and moved here. Like, that was it. You know, so that was some people, you know, like they'll do that stuff.
Yeah.
You know, when I think about that decision, it's like the longer I would have stayed, the harder it would have been. Like psychologically, probably bureaucratically, the way things are changing with immigration laws and visas and, you know, investor visa, you know, thresholds and all that stuff is changing. It seems like, you know, and I don't know, maybe this is just me being cynical, but it seems like there are things happening that are making it harder for people to move, you know. And then psychologically, the longer you're in that system, in that matrix life, in that, you know, keeping up with the Joneses, trying to keep ahead of inflation, you know, providing the life, you think you should be providing for your family and your kids, like that's a lot of pressure. And the more pressure, the deeper you get into it, right? And a lot of times in the West, that means debt, you know, so you're deeper into debt and you're taking more on and, you know, then you're kind of stuck on that wheel. Like, I got to keep going faster to not get buried. So it becomes harder and harder to make the decision to leave, you know, no matter where you are in that cycle, in that, you know, debt cycle or psychological cycle, it never gets easier from here. It's only going to get harder.
Yeah. And, you know, like to be here successfully and enjoy it, you know, you do have to kind of unplug and relax.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a prerequisite. Like if you're coming here kind of high strung and wanting everything the way you want it, and like having the expectations of sort of the convenience and the rhythm, or I should say the convenience and sort of the pace of back home and how things work and how people interact, like you're going to hate it here. You know, you're not going to like it here at all. You're going to leave very quickly and go back to the comfort of what you know, which is totally cool. But you know, it's interesting to me, like if you can sort of fall into that rhythm and find that rhythm of life here, you know, there's sort of a universal feeling for people that live here that when you leave and come back, it's like, oh,
yeah.
Every time, you know, it feels so good. I had this experience where, it was probably when we went to the coast, because I haven't been there in a while, but when we were on the coast and enjoying the beach for a period of time, and then I was driving back with my family, and it's a totally different ball game in that part of Ecuador than it is here. I love the coast. There's beautiful, tiny little fishing villages all up and down the coast. They're places I really enjoy spending time. But once you get, you know, kind of towards Guayaquil and then between Guayaquil and Machala, which is the way I tend to drive home, you know, it's different. There's a lot of sort of harassment, might be too strong a word, but a lot of sort of presence from transit police. Yeah. It's borders on harassment in terms of how they go about trying to extract money, basically. It's a different vibe. It's you know, you have to be a little more cognizant of your safety and your surroundings and those kinds of things. And at one point, we're driving around Machala, and this is an area that's pure banana plantations. It's like bananas as far as the eye can see. Yep. And interspersed, dotted with little towns, you know, so these little towns all over. And it's just kind of a 2-lane road that goes between, you know, Machala and Guayaquil, or maybe we're on the other side of Machala. And at one point we're driving, and for probably an hour of driving, there's these little sort of tiny little crop duster airplanes, and they're crop dusting. You know, they're crop dusting like every 30 seconds there's another, and you see this huge plume of whatever they're spraying on the bananas coming out, as not only are we driving, but people live here. Like their drinking water is there, they're walking around, they're breathing the air, they live there. And I don't know if they crop dust every day or if it's once a week or it's once a month, or like, I don't know, maybe that was just the day they were doing it. But to me, it felt like, it was like, this is hell. You know, this is like hell on earth. Like this, right? So then we get there, and then you know, once you get to Machala and you start to hit that rotary and you start to go up towards the mountains, as soon as you kind of get up towards the mountains, kind of the vibe changes a little bit, starts to get a little prettier. Mm-hmm. The people are a little different, a little more relaxed, a little more maybe even friendly, kind of more traditional is maybe the right word. Right. And then you've got a multi-hour still, you know, drive home, like a 3-4 hour drive still home. And like the closer you get to the Malacatos Valley and the Vote, you just feel better and better and better. And the people are nicer and nicer and nicer. And there's bananas growing and oranges. And every time they're not crop dusted. Yeah. And every time I just have this experience of, oh my God, I love it here. I love it here.
That month we spent on the coast, that was so I came down thinking I was going to tour the coast, never did. That was the first time I went to the coast. And we were there for a month, and I enjoyed it, but I had the same, and actually my family echoed this as well. We had, where when as much as we enjoyed the coast, when we got back towards Vilcabamba and then back in the valley, it just felt better. Like, I'm like, oh, this is where I want to live. I don't want to live on the coast. I want to visit the coast, but I don't want to live on the coast. I want to live here. And that was really reinforcing that first trip as well.
And it's important to point out on the side note that those bananas that are being dusted and sprayed, they're the bananas that Ecuador exports mostly all around the world. Mm-hmm. Here, I mean, anywhere in the rural areas, when you see bananas growing, they're never sprayed, basically. No. Never, ever. No. Any bananas you buy around here that are from here anyways, they're, you know, criollo, and they're, you know, they're always organic, basically.
Yeah. There's certain fruits that they just don't spray, even if they're not trying to be organic. They just don't need to be sprayed here in this region. So they just don't. Bananas are one of them. All the citrus, a lot of stuff.
You know, we talked a lot about cost of living, you know, the last couple episodes and US dollar and inflation and all that stuff that people are dealing with and kind of how the Ecuador dollar acts different than the US dollar. And really the US dollar acts different within the US too. You know, it's just when you think about cost of living and buying power, you know, things, you know, the house you can buy for $500,000 in New York is much different than the house you can buy in Alabama for $500,000 in food and all that stuff. So it's different. It's, you know, Ecuador is really like the size of a state. They're like Colorado. So if you think about that, when you look at the different, you know, how far your dollar goes in buying power or inflation on certain things from state to state or even parts of state compared to other parts of the state. In Chicago, you know, your buying power is much different than it is in Southern Illinois, right? So when you start thinking about it that way, then that helps you contextualize or conceptualize, you know, how it can be different in Ecuador. And, you know, we've been getting in some good discussions in the comments with folks bringing some, you know, context to, you know, cost of living and inflation and what else was it? Oh, income, right? So that's one we've touched on in the past, but it's like the Ecuador, you know, the minimum wage in the US, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. Okay. So
but state minimum wages are often much higher.
Well, the highest is Washington, D.C., which is, you know, not a state. But the highest, and that's like $16.50 or something. There's about, I don't know, 10 to 12 states that still use the federal minimum wage at $7.25 or $7.50, whatever it is. And then there's a group of half or 60% of the states that are, you know, from $8 up to 16-ish in that range. But what's really interesting is you look at the median income in the United States, and 50% of the population in the U.S. makes less than $24 an hour. 50% that's a median income is about 24 bucks. Mm-hmm. In Ecuador, the median income, the most recent median income I saw was $625 a month, but so
that's median. Median. So be a lot less in this area,
right? Which sure. This is same with the state. Same with the states, like certain parts of the country. $24, right? But just as a whole, 50% of the population is under the median income in the United States. In Ecuador, it's only like 35% of the population below the median income. So it's just interesting. It's just more really so when you go, the bigger you go on the data, obviously the more nuanced, the more, you know, exceptions there are when you break it down more granular. So here, you know, when you go granular and you can see if you're bringing in U.S. earned dollars to Ecuador, you have a significant advantage.
Oh yeah.
A significant advantage. Or Canadian dollars.
Same.
Yeah.
A little.
Yeah, and there's so much difference too. Just people here don't have the same expectations lifestyle-wise,
right?
And they don't have the same sort of requirements, to survive, to live that you have in a cold climate that has winter.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That also has the sort of healthcare costs, for example, that you can go broke in the States, having a health issue.
Right.
There's a free public healthcare system here, but on top of that, the private system's fantastic and dirt cheap.
Yep.
So, because of the climate, because a lot of some of those factors, some of the fact that there's so much less government stuff, just government in general, throughout the economy and throughout people's lives here, having less sort of liquid, or not even liquid, but just cash, like income, like dollar income, as opposed to, food you grow for yourself or things like that. It's just much less of a big deal than it would be back home, right? Now, that's not necessarily true if you're in a large city. Mm-hmm. So that could be similar if you're, if you really don't have anything and you're in Guayaquil or Quito or Cuenca even, or maybe Manta, and that's about it. that could be maybe approaching how difficult it would be to be like that in the States. But if you're anywhere in rural, if you're rural at all, you really don't have really any costs in your life,
right,
per se, right? I mean,
they're not leveraged either. You're not leveraging debt to have your lifestyle. And some of that is also the culture, right? It's the culture and the mindset that, there's not this, keeping up with the Joneses mindset. And on the external, like in the States, we've talked about this too, where people care more about what the outside of their house looks like in their yard and their lawn, and everything has got to, be better than your neighbors. And then it's like this competition on the outside. And in Ecuador, at least in the rural area, it's the opposite. People aren't showing off. They don't care what the outside, they'd rather not show and then have the inside of their house be how they want it, or the behind the wall and that. So that creates like a reduction in the psychological like need to compete, to keep up with the Joneses. And so you don't have that generically or generally in this area.
Mm-hmm. One other thing I wanted to touch on just about Vilcabamba in this valley, because I think Ecuador is awesome. Like, it's one of the most biodiverse countries on earth.
Yeah.
It has a great culture, a great climate, there's a million things to love about Ecuador. But I think this is the best part. Like, I think for me, this is the best part of the country. The South in general, I think, is way better than the North. Again, that's just personal preference. Mm-hmm. The South for me is way better, but this particular, like Vilcabamba, surrounding valleys, and then the proximity you are here to the jungle and to other things. Mm-hmm. Loja is my favorite city. Like, Loja and Manta are my two favorite cities in Ecuador. They're similar size, but one is coast, one is mountains, totally different cultures. But so my dad and my stepmom are arriving tomorrow. Today's the 5th, right? Yes, tomorrow. And one of the things we have planned for this weekend is to hike up to the waterfall, right? To the Vilcabamba waterfall, which I've actually never been up there, believe it or not.
Get out of here.
All the years I've been here, yeah. I'm one of those weirdos that came here and worked his brains out and didn't prioritize that stuff. Don't do that, folks. So we're going to head up to the waterfall. And it's just the fact that kind of opportunity, literally you don't have to drive to, and there's a million of them. I mentioned earlier in the podcast, like I was in the river this morning. I'll probably be back in the river for 20 minutes this afternoon if I get the chance. They're coming, we're gonna hike up to the water. And I think some of those, everything we're talking about, but also some of those kinds of things have brought this level, probably some of the energetics too, but have brought this massive sort of ratio of healers and health practitioners to population, right? An extremely high number of health practitioners, amazing, like world-renowned in some cases, health practitioners who make their home, here in the valley, which I think is another just very unique and very cool aspect of, Vilcabamba, Ecuador. You've got this little like kind of bubble. You've got this little very small sort of place that, kind of, this is the weather all the time. It does, it doesn't get cold. You got all the food stuff. You got the Saturday market, and you can kind of like hippie out there and enjoy the music and, have and get all your food. And, you got all this kind of stuff. Everything's walkable for the most part. You got the nature, but then you've also got amazing people of all kinds. But just the fact that there's so many people who are able to help you or anyone with their health at a really high level, and just about any modality you can possibly dream up, exists here at a relatively high level. It's one of the really, really cool things, I think, too, about this valley.
Yeah, and then you have an underlying bond. There's like an underlying thread through all of those practitioners and the folks that are here, is that they're from all over the world.
Yeah.
They're like, so you have that commonality that you left a place where you were born and come, to this sleepy village in the Andes Mountains. And it just happens to have this, robustness of unique folks and high level people from all over the world, which, you have that bond then, like, hey, I'm not from here either, it's
right.
It's kind of cool.
It's like, it's sometimes, when it's like, I genuinely love this place. And it's like, sometimes when I'm talking, I feel like people are going to think I'm trying to sell it. But I'm not at all. Like, I'm not at all, right? Like, it makes no difference to me at all if people come here or not. In fact, I don't think you should come here unless, like, a lot of the stuff here really aligns with what you're into, and kind of your beliefs. it's just the truth. Like,
Yeah.
this is just what this place is. you
Yeah,
know?
like you said, more people. I would say more people that come, that actually take the leap and visit and come here. They do enjoy it and like it and want to come back or want to move here, more so than not. But if we zoom out, I would say most people, this is not for them.
Definitely.
Like Ecuador in general is probably not for most people
Right.
from the West, and this region is probably for even fewer of those people.
For sure.
So when you look at the big picture, most people this isn't for them. They're going to struggle or they're going to not like it. But the folks that are more aligned with kind of the values that we enjoy and that we value, and we live, like those are the folks that are going to be much more likely to enjoy it and want to be here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about like what some of those things are at all, or what are those values that
We can.
would make you enjoy life here? Or do you want to get into the the exit tax stuff? If you did, were you able to
No,
find
I
that or
was
no?
able to find that. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you. I don't care. What do you want to do?
I don't know. Carl, what's
wanna
the
do,
values, Carl?
I was gonna say first that I kind of find it crazy when I think of myself and my family, and I think how we wouldn't really want to be anywhere else. Like we're at this point where like this is better than anything else. I can't picture myself being anywhere else. We're so comfortable here. We're so, we have so many friends. We've made so many deep relationships with locals and expats. Both our children have really close friendships. They're involved with the local community. They have, like for us, like, I mean, my wife sometimes misses Canada, her family. It's mostly family things that we don't have family here. We have friends that have become like family. But yeah, I just thought, for us, like for me, anyways, I wouldn't see myself or my family be anywhere else. Like, I mean, we could, like, of course, we're adaptable, but we would struggle anywhere else. Like, in a sense, like some people come here and they have to learn the culture and learn the way to live here. And for us, this has become like our life and our way of living, and it would be very difficult to start up somewhere else, really. So anyways, yeah. And the values, of course, freedom is a huge value that I think a lot of us share here. People come here from countries that freedoms seem to slowly kind of, be going away, eroding. Whereas here we still have all of that. And the Ecuadorian people, even though, they do sort of follow orders in some way, they're also like freedom focused, local people here. There's many examples. We could say, they block the roads when they don't like what the government does and other things, but that's also a value that local people, Ecuadorians, share with us. Freedom for sure. Health, I think, is something that a lot of people are looking for, right? As the world is becoming more, artificial, toxic, the lifestyle in the West in general, people glued to their devices, not exercising, not eating healthy food, not living in, comfortable weather where you can be outside and, spend time in nature. That's all of those things we have here. So for sure, I think a lot of people, as they're getting older also, your health starts kind of degrading. Coming to a place like this most likely will improve your health. At least that's what we've seen in most people that we know, including ourselves.
Yeah, it's conducive. Like the environment, the climate is conducive for being active. And then you see other people out spending time in nature and going on hikes and going to the river. And then you're like, oh, I can start to do that. Like that's kind of the lifestyle. So it's conducive for, encouraging people or taking those, it's not like they have to, in the winter in Chicago, unless you're going to cross country ski, which takes, equipment and a learning curve, etc. You have to go to a gym. You got to go inside a gym, and then you're like, all right. And if you're just trying to start getting your health back, and then you have that social awkwardness, and like, I don't really know what to do, and are people looking at me, and I'm not confident, so it's even harder. And then you have to leave to go do it. Where here you can just walk outside and go for a walk, and
sure,
almost any day, any time of the week. So it's really conducive for, really gaining control of your health again.
For sure, for sure.
And good.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say also on the topic of freedom, I think the cost of living being so much cheaper here just gives you so much more freedom. Like, back home, you need to clean your house, right? And usually you can't afford like a nanny or cleaning lady. Whereas here, it's very common for people, and Ecuadorians are looking to get a job with an expat typically to help, around the house, cooking, cleaning, etc. So that adds so much more freedom. You have more time to do things you want to do because someone else, can work for you and wants to work for you to do some of the things that, you'd have to do back home. And that's just one example. There's so many, even gardening, it was always awkward to me when I first came here. We lived on Matt Monarch's property, actually, which, it's in the Hacienda San Joaquin, it's a gated community. And there was all these workers, and there was always workers, growing food on the land for us. And we'd just walk around with our basket and start picking food that someone else grew for us. And they were happy to do it. They love it. They love growing food. They know how to do it. They were like, hey, you want some tomatoes? They would give us fruits from the land. So it was something to get used to, of not having to do the work. Someone else is doing it for you. But it's just, and you don't have to do that either. You don't have to hire people either. If you want to grow your own gardens, that's totally fine. But you can hire a gardener for a lot less, for a lot less than you would pay back home. And they're happy to work for you, and they do a really good job. And they become sort of part of your family in a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're helping out the community.
Right.
That's strengthening the economics of the local community.
So it does add freedom in the sense that you have more time to do things that you really want to do.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things too about just talking about that aspect that I really appreciate is there's no weirdness between the cultures. It's not to say no American or no foreigner has ever offended an Ecuadorian. Of course they have.
Of course.
And especially I think maybe in a place like Cuenca, where it's kind of a different vibe and sort of a different type of expat that tends to be there, that probably goes on more than more often. But it's, when I've heard from people that in other places, in other Latin American countries or other countries that expats go, there's a divide and there's some animosity from the locals towards, the foreigners that are living there. And it's just, I was kind of expecting that when I got here. It was kind of part of my perspective of thinking, oh, people are going to think this and think that. And, there's going to be that sort of tension or that awkwardness. People here just aren't that way at all. At all. It's amazing to me. Not amazing, but it's just awesome that you can, anyone you're interacting with in whatever capacity has the total potential to be your friend. They're curious about you. They don't have any weird thoughts or resentment. They definitely have, they know foreigners relate to the world differently.
Sure.
So if anything, there's some comedy there, and you can have those conversations with people and they're funny. And, but in general, people almost hold foreigners here in high regard in many ways. They sort of want to impress. They want to show off where they live or what they're up to or these kind of things. And they're very interested in you, and they're, it's very easy. It's so welcoming. It's just such a welcoming, kind, peaceful, all the other adjectives. Are those adjectives? I
guess that,
characteristics. So
yeah. Well, Vilcabamba is also a unique place because there's been foreigners here for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
The first ones came 40 years ago, 50 years ago, even maybe. Johnny Love Wisdom in the 70s. So
Johnny Love Wisdom.
Yes.
People say he's the original hippie.
Really? Yeah. Johnny Love Wisdom, I think, was maybe one of the first gringo expat to come to Vilcabamba, and kind of started a community based on health, actually, and spirituality and stuff like that. He wrote a bunch of books. The Valley of Rare Fruits, I believe that was one of his books, if I'm not mistaken, or it was Gavino. Gavino also wrote some books about Vilcabamba. But I think the Johnny Love Wisdom was the Valley of Rare Fruits. And he was talking about how he was looking at the perfect place in the world for health, and that basically this valley, because of the altitude, because of the proximity to the rainforest, because of all of the different components, the water, the air, the type of fruits that grow here and stuff, it was the healthiest place in the world to live. That's why he chose here, and that's why over time more people came. He had this community. Some of the people that are here actually, that are second or third generation, came from Johnny Love Wisdom's crew, Yvonne and Curtis.
Oh, really?
The beer, yeah. His mother, I think, came with that wave of people. Gavino was involved in that, I think, somehow connected to them as well. Mm-hmm. There were very few expats here back then. Mm-hmm. But anyways, what's my point is that, Ecuadorians are used to having expats here. So you know, it's more normal here in a sense.
Sure.
Like they're very used to it. We're not like, you know, like, whoa, gringos, that's different. But if you go to like another rural place in Ecuador, they might have never seen an expat sometime, right? So it creates a different dynamic. So here people are like, of course they're friendly with gringos, but they're also used to them. I think like professionals from Loja, for example, I think they're even more curious about gringos.
Yeah.
Like they want to hang out with you. They're like, because they see expats around, but it's not as much as like Vilcabamba. I mean, Vilcabamba, you know, if that's not what you're looking for, to be around other expats, Vilcabamba might not be for you either. Because like, I was just with a client last week. We drove through town, and he's like, "Whoa, there's a lot of white people here." He used that term, right? Which I thought was kind of funny. But yes, it's very obvious when you come to Vilcabamba on a weekend or even any day of the week. There's a lot of expats around. You can tell they look a little different and stuff. They dress different, right? And you know, that's just Vilcabamba. If you go to Malacatos, you won't see that at all. If you go to Quinara, not at all either. So it creates a bit of a different dynamic. And then I have an anecdote. A couple days ago, actually on Saturday, a gentleman who we helped sell a house for gave me a call, and you know, it was a Saturday. I was trying to take some time off, but he's like, "Hey, my sister is selling this piece of land. Maybe you want to help?" And I'm like, "Where's it located?" And he's like, he sends me a pin, and it's a couple blocks from where I live. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go check it out. You know, I had a little bit of time, so I took my wife and my daughter on a walk to the property. Actually, we drove. It was a couple blocks, but we drove there. And the brother-in-law was there, and he's like showing me around the property and picking all these fruits and giving us fruits, and it was just, you know, really sweet. And they were having like a barbecue there with the whole family. And we walked back to the house, and it's like we had to go because we had actually that was the day we had the musical thing here at your house, Brendan. So I was like, oh, we don't have a lot of time. I have to go to this event. And they're like, oh, sit down for a moment. And they serve us a drink, and they give us some ribs, and they start giving us all this food and stuff. And we're like, okay. So, you know, part of this too is I was told, and it took me some years to learn this, but in Ecuador, and this is similar to other countries I know, but if someone serves you food, it's kind of disrespectful to not accept it, you know, so you kind of have to be like, you know, even if you're not hungry or something, you still like eat a little bit of it or something. But yeah, anyways, they were just so kind, and they wanted to talk to us, and they were very curious, and they were asking questions about our daughter and where you kids go to school and how this, and oh, you've lived here for 12 years, wow. And they were just like, they really were curious and wanted to like hang out with us and come back anytime. And they gave us a bag of like guanabana and guavas and a bunch of fruits to take home as well. And, you know, and that's a very common experience here.
That's par for the course, right?
That's par for the course.
How everybody is in the rural areas, at least.
Yeah.
No, I mean, when I used to be out doing that kind of stuff, looking at properties and, you know, walking properties, you couldn't get away without carrying a whole bunch of fruits back, which was awesome. Like,
Speaking of fruits,
you're hitting those transitions.
mandarina grande, mandarina pequeño.
So what is it? What are you then?
Yeah, I am no mandarina. Sin mandarina. All right. So I found the exit tax. So we had a way. It was a bet, right? We had a bet.
That's right. We had a bet.
Who was going to be right? And I don't remember what the bet exactly was.
Tell us the answer. We'll tell
Carl thought it was 3.5 staying there.
Yeah.
And I thought there was a temporary raise
to
5%.
5 was the number I threw out.
Okay.
I don't remember that part. But
all right.
You might be correct.
So let's
I
see.
usually am.
Yeah. Well, I knew they were stopping at 3.5, that they weren't going to continue to decrease it.
Yes.
But you're saying from 3.5 it's going back
This
to
is called
5.
hedging.
Right. So let's see which mandarina was correct. So apparently the National Assembly rejected Noboa's restoration of the VAT originally, right? So he wanted to raise it. They rejected it. Then he partially vetoed it and allowed certain tax increases to happen, which were the VAT taxes that you explained earlier. Mm-hmm. And also the tax on foreign exchange exit. So he did increase it from 3.5 to 5.5 or to 5% temporarily for a 2-year special assessment.
And it starts when?
Let's see. I'm not sure.
Soon.
I think Assembly 30, blah, 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 blah.
I mean, it's not going to be a long time from now.
Yeah, I don't. I think whenever the VAT increase, it'll be with whatever those are.
So that's April 1st. Yeah. No, actually, there's somebody. Well, anyways, people are trying to. Some people are selling properties and would like to get funds to the States. So it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
This stuff's terrible for international investment.
Yeah.
So mandarina pequeño.
Dude,
Pequeño, man.
I don't know if you can win something and be a mandarina. I think you already have lost at that point.
If you're a mandarina,
it no longer matters. Although Carl advocates being a mandarina.
No, I would never do that. Never do that.
All right, that's all I got for today, guys. Anything else you guys want to touch on?
I think we're good.
All right.
We didn't address the hater. I know we're keeping people on the edge of their seats.
It's not that exciting.
We will address the haters eventually. We promise.
You promise.
I mean, we should. We should.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell. Come visit us on our retreat.
We hope
see
to
some
see
mandarinas.
You here. Some mandarinas con corteza gruesa. We hope to see you here one day, guys.
So until then,
we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.
Ciao, guys.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel right here. Check out our real estate channel right here for content that you will absolutely love. Click right here. And if you want to know how we got here, click here.